What's up, everyone? Welcome to episode 12 of me building my own AI native search platform. I've covered why I'm building this and some details on how I'm building this in some previous videos. The reason I'm doing this is I want to build this as much as possible in the open. Right now, I am hosting these live sessions. My goal is to start making proper videos, and I have bought a couple of these tripods, and I'm going to use an iPhone, actually two iPhones, to record proper videos. But right now, I'm using my iPhone 17 as my webcam, um, and it works. But yeah, I'm excited to kind of talk about today's topic, which is how am I building this search platform to be global and multilingual from day one. What do I mean by that? Well, my vision is that if someone visits from a certain country, say Argentina, my vision is that it should appear to the user that the app was designed by someone in Argentina. Like it's not only localized, but it behaves as if it knows the norms of the local sort of region and the country. Um, it's easier said than done. This is not something also maybe necessarily unique. I have not tried it, but I would think ChatGPT also behaves like this. But I wanted to kind of be very explicit about this. And what you see on my screen is sort of some of the nuances involved and how I'm kind of thinking about sort of building this up. Um, this is one of the core components of sort of how do you sort of respond um, for when you get a query. Something I want to quickly bring up is when you're building a search platform, most people think that you're just using an LLM. Um, most people think that you're just using an LLM to make a call and be a wrapper. That's not completely true. I wish it was that easy because the key component that's missing when you are building a good search experience is real-time info. That's why I've talked about so much about Grok in the past and how much I believe Grok uh, has an advantage from XAI because it has access to X platform. And apart from the sort of the three core components that you need to build, you know, greatest, the best AI models, leading to AGI, which is talent, infrastructure, GPU, and really a will, a commitment to build this at a grand scale, and that requires funding. So you need funding, you need the infrastructure, and you need the talent. That these are the three components you need to build top of the line, great AI models that lead to AGI. Now, startups like me don't have access to any of those things. But what we have access to is these models that we can call. And so the nice thing is we don't have to build the models. We can call these models, but something that I mentioned in my previous video, we can orchestrate. So we can use these models intelligently because there are a lot of these models. There are small, medium, large size models, thinking models, reasoning models, non-reasoning models. And using them intelligently can give you tremendous amount of capability. Add to that personalization, so you can personalize based on users' tastes and behavior, which is something that even the model companies have to do by themselves, um, like on top of the model building. It is part of the application layer, and localization, internationalization is something else that needs some application-led logic, um, and personalization and Well, great user experience. We currently have mostly chat like experiences. What is the next form of experience that will resonate to the user? That's also something that needs to be done at the application layer. So the even if you're not building groundbreaking AI models, there's a lot to be done. And what I'm focusing on is building that application layer, orchestrating multiple of these models, experimenting, so that I can build a great search experience. And I'm calling it search, but it's really just Q&A question. It's really for address your curiosity. I call building applications for dreamers by a dreamer, right? So if you're a dreamer, um, and one of the key capabilities that I'm building as part of the search experience is intelligent um, briefs. So, if you use ChatGPT, you may know that it constructs a morning brief, which is good, but if you can do a lot better, especially with personalization. I think that's when you start to kind of help the user save some time, make sure they don't miss out on important things, especially if these are professionals. You can be an architect, a fashion designer, a software engineer, and there's so much on YouTube gets published every day, so much on social media apps get posted. And then one option is for you to open YouTube and social media apps every day and multiple times a day and catch up. That's an option, but I don't think that's going to last too long. It's also very taxing and draining. And so how do you build it so that content's pushed to you instead of you going to the content providers or the apps? So that's the differentiation. But anyway, back to today's topic. So one of the things I want to talk about is how I've tried to think about this sort of multi-level, um, just sort of language resolution logic. And so what I want to walk you through, right? So something that I want to honor first and foremost is if the user says answer in a particular language, right? So let's talk about language first. So, respond in French. And so that should override everything. And that's what you see at the top, explicit ask. Then there is a setting in the UI, which hopefully I'll be able to demo soon. I've said episode 15, and I hope I can do that. So UI has a language dropdown, and so you can also pick a language from that dropdown. It's mostly convenience. It's mostly for people who don't know that they can type in the prompt that, hey, respond in a certain language. And so that takes into effect. If that's not set by the user, then we fall back to the user's profile. What is the chosen language, which by the way is optional. As a user, when you sign up, my goal is to ask the user, hey, what's your language of preference? What's your country of residence? These are all optional things. They may or may not fill it. But then you can fall back to that if that's available. And if that's not available, you can then fall back to the language of the query. So if the user is asking the query in Japanese or Spanish, we should probably assume that's the language that the user is comfortable with, and we should respond in that language, right? That's kind of the idea. And then the latter part is the formatting. This is just a sort of small snippet of the flow. But how do you format the response? Now that you know the language and you know how to respond in what language, be it English, Japanese, Spanish, what have you, how do you format? And a lot of how you format has to do with where you're based. So even though you're responding in English, you could be someone from Britain or UK versus the United States, and we use different units in the US versus folks on the other side of the pond, different currency, different formats, how dates are formatted. In India, dates are formatted differently. It's date, month, year versus month, date, year in the US. So all those norms we want to honor. And I've tried to be a little more explicit. One thing I was in the beginning, sort of the approach that I was going with was just let the LLM do it. Most LLM should know. If I include in the instruction that, hey, this person prefers UK English and is based in London, and let the LLM do it. But then I want, this is such an important part that I've tried to make it a little more explicit. So this is the kind of logic, this is kind of the extra application layer logic that, you know, I'm building that hopefully will provide value uh, to the user. And so, yeah, that all that becomes part of when I say explicit ask, what I mean by that is it's explicitly mentioned in the LLM instructions that, hey, answer in this language, and these are sort of the norms from the region, in case you didn't know, and respond and format accordingly, right? And then uh, there is also a fallback, and this is for the country, by the way, because units, currency, etc., is based on the country. So there is the language and there is the locale, like the region, country part. The language is sort of, that's the flow, everything from explicit to default, and so we default to English. For the country or the region, again, same thing, is the user mentioning in the query that I'm in Europe, or answer as if I'm in Europe. Or same thing, you can fall back to the profile country. Yeah, if the user has sort of mentioned in the profile that I'm based in the United States, which is helpful because if I'm based in the United States and I'm traveling and I'm, say, visiting Italy, if I ask a question from Italy, it should still answer ideally with US norms. It should still ideally answer in dollars, um, because I'm from the US. So if I'm asking, hey, what's the price of a hotel in this region? It shouldn't answer in euros, which would be the default mode if you only use the current sort of location. So that's why this is so important. So I'm traveling to Europe, and yet I get a response in dollars. Same thing in sort of anything dimensions, I'll get in inches and yards, like imperial versus metric system. So we use the country, but say you don't want to let the system know what's your preferred country or country of residence, then we'll fall back to your IP address. And in that case, we will use Italy in that example. And then use that for formatting. And then even if that's not available for some reason, like from IP address, we're not able to derive, then I'll fall back to US. So everything fall backs to English US, but this is kind of the flow that it goes through. And I wanted to make this explicit just because I wanted to make sure this is the case. Now you'd think that ChatGPT, Grok, all these sort of really intelligent models will do this automatically, and yes, they do it, but 95% of the time, there is always that 5% sort of part where it just doesn't get it. And so a classic example is you travel and then ask Frog or ChatGPT a question, and it sometimes answers in the local format and local regions formatting. This kind of ensures it. I don't know what they're doing behind the scenes. I don't know if they're just letting the model thinking, reasoning do it. It's very possible. But if you're not using a reasoning or thinking model because they're slow, they're expensive, then you're in a real pickle. Like if you're not using a thinking model, it becomes it's very unpredictable. Sometimes you'll get what you expect, and sometimes you won't get what you expect. With this approach, in my testing at least, and I've tested with Gemini 2.5 Flash and also Flash Lite models. They both are very small. They both are non-reasoning models, and they both consistently uh, generate what I'm expecting. And so I was really happy with it because I cannot expect that the user will always use a thinking model. Oftentimes you want a quick answer. So yeah, this is sort of today's video. I wanted to kind of show a piece of like what goes into building a platform like mine. One last thing I want to mention is just about everything I'm building, I'll be making sure that's available via APIs for other developers at hopefully a very, very economical price. And I'm excited that when that day comes, and hopefully some folks will be able to take advantage. It won't be, the idea is not to compete with the foundation model companies. You'll never be able to. But the API, these APIs, if you can imagine the difference, will be that my APIs will be much, much more higher level than the foundational models. So like if you use ChatGPT API, you can ask a question and get back, but personalization will be up to you. And then even in many cases, localization, internationalization is up to you. Calling APIs like tools is up to you. Like if you want to call YouTube videos, search YouTube videos, you'll have to do it as a software developer, which all adds work and complexity. My API will do that. It sort of comes with a full package. So I already call YouTube for relevant that, and there's a lot of sort of interesting LLM-based logic that goes into finding whether to call YouTube or not based on the user's prompt or query, and what is the query that we want to use to call YouTube, and also do we want to call just one query or multiple variations of the query, and what language to set, locale to set, and other sort of API parameters to set. There's a lot of interesting things you have to do, which as a normal developer you don't have to. And I also hope that the API can connect or provide a connector to your private data eventually. So it can sort of pull that data in and RAG for you. And so that's the kind of the idea, that make that available, a much, much higher level API available. It's not for everybody, but someone who wants the full package and convenience, and they can get very intelligent and not just intelligent, but also an API that takes care of real-time data for them. So if they call the AI API and ask for news or weather, they get the news, and versus them doing the work by writing function tools or making the API calls or using MCP servers and all of that. So yeah, that's I'm excited that that's something that I'll be able to release. But right now, the focus is to get this end-to-end search experience complete. I don't know what next topic I'll be talking about, but yeah, I'll keep building these videos, and yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.